Hello, welcome back to the channel, and if you are a regular viewer of this, you'll know I release a monthly summary of my solar generations, how much money that's saving me and how much money that's making me through SEG. But if you watched my most recent one, which was my summary for June, then you will have seen that I've missed some of the usual graphs and tables that I normally share with you. And that's because I was saving them for today's video. Because today I'm going to be looking at the first 6 months of 2024 and comparing that to 2023. So there are a few people on YouTube who do similar videos to this, and quite a lot of them are saying that 2024 has been worse than 2023. And again, if you've been viewing my videos for a while now, you'll have seen that my conclusions are the same. But let's actually delve into the figures. So please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. It literally takes you a second and won't cost you anything, but it really does help me. So just to remind you, I've got, or if you're viewing for the first time, I've got 12 385 watt Q cell panels on the roof. They are perfectly south facing, and I live in Swansea, and there's no obstruction to them. And that means I have a peak power of 4.65 kilowatt, and those feed down into a 5 kilowatt inverter, and I have a 5 kilowatt hour pure drive battery. And just to give you some background to the figures I'm going to be presenting today, up until the 1st of April I was on with British Gas, and I was paying 19p for import no matter when I imported that electricity, whether it was day, night or anywhere in between. I was also on a British Gas SEG scheme which paid 15p for export. And that export actually went up until the 8th of April because British Gas took a long time to solve all that. From 1st of April I've been on Octopus Flux, and this is a variable tariff, and I mean variable that it varies depending on the time of day. So in the morning, so at 2 a.m. in the from 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. I've been paying 14.7p for import. During the most of the daytime I've been paying 24.5p, which has been the price cap, and from the peak period, which is 4 p.m. till 7 p.m, I'm paying 34p. However, I always make sure my battery's topped up for that, so for the past couple of months, 3 months, I haven't actually had to import at the peak time. It also comes with an associated export tariff. I don't export during the night, so the only figures that are relevant to you are that I export at 15.08p, which if you work out, that's slightly more than the import during the low period in the middle of the night, and I export at 24.93 pence. And this has dictated my strategy since moving to Octopus, that during the night time I make sure my battery's topped up to 100%, even though I may not have to because the next day is predicted to be sunny, just because I get more for my export. It's marginal, and whether with efficiency losses it's worth it, integrated into the battery, but it means that if the next day is cloudy, I'm not at a disadvantage there, so it's managing the risk from that point of view. Okay, so let's look at a graph that shows the daily generation off my roof. So as you can see, the overall shape of this graph is climbing up to May and June, which is what you expect. It's fairly scattered within that frame though. Even in June we had days where we were generating less than 5 kilowatt hours, and we hit a peak daily generation of just under 33 kilowatts, which is actually similar to last year. But it meant for the first 6 months of 2024 we have generated 2,408.7 kilowatts. And again, comparing that to last year, where we generated in total 4,800, we're actually on target to match next year. However, what we have found was that the year isn't perfectly symmetric. May was the peak last year, and then it tailed off through June and July. So it's difficult to compare like with like for just a 6-month period. By comparison, last year we up until the end of June we had generated 2,761, so about 350 kilowatt hours down on last year's generation, if we're comparing the same 6-month period. And we can see that in this graph, which is sort of comparing our year generation not only from this year but also partially from when we had the solar panels set up, which was at the tail end of August 2022. So the blue is the 2022 figures. Not really particularly worried about that for this video. When I do the year summary at the end of the year, then those will become more relevant. The orange is the 2023 numbers and the grey is this year's numbers. So you can see that each month this year, except for March, has been lower than in 2023. January, pretty much level pegging. February was much worse than last year. As I say, March this year was slightly better. April down on last year, and May and June definitely down on last year. And when we get to the May and June, we're actually talking significant amounts. We're talking nearly 100 kilowatt hours each month for those 2 months. So this year has been not that great. Also, if you've watched my summary from 2023, last year we spent £70 on import for the entire year. This year we've already spent £74.84 on import. This is excluding standing charge. But there is a reason why we are we've already gone over the amount we spent last year. And that reason is that because we're importing during the evening. No, sorry, not in the evening, during the early morning. So, we've been doing that for the past couple of months. So, last year in April, May and June, we spent less than £3 in total over those 3 months on import. This year we've spent nearly £35 over those first 3 months. Over the same 3 months, sorry. And that's just because of the strategy. But where it's paying off is we're getting more seg. So it's not comparing like with like, but we've transferred our sort of general income from our or payback on our solar panels from savings in import through to getting extra in seg. By the way, if you wonder what seg is, it's the smart export guarantee. It's what you get paid for exporting back to the grid. So, this year we've had to import, how much have we imported? We've imported 430 kilowatts from the grid. We've used in total 1,300, which again is about what we would expect. We tend to use just over 200 kilowatt hours per month, so that's about 2,500 kilowatt hours in total for a year, and we're about roughly half of that at the halfway stage in the year. I should say we have gas central heating and a gas hob but electric oven, and there's 2 of us in this house. So we've imported what did I say, 430 kilowatt hours, and that has cost us £74.85. However, when we look at the money we would have had to send to an energy supplier, and you look at the savings we've made, we've actually saved £212. So you can think about this, we would have sent any electricity supplier over nearly £290 this year. We've only sent them just under 75. So we've saved £212.72. And I was saying the important thing is the seg. So we have exported 1,540 of those kilowatt hours that we have generated, which means we've only used ourselves 800 of the 2,540 400 we've already generated. But and our total seg in for this year has already hit £264.90, so nearly £265. Which means that if we add our total savings, that £212, and that seg of 265, it means that our payback on our solar panels just in the first 6 months of 2024 has been £477.62. Which is, if we compare that to the savings from last year, where we had our total money payback of 537, we've nearly matched it, but only in half a year. That's, again, we're not comparing like with like. Last year our savings value is based on what we were paying for British Gas at the time, which was 19p per kilowatt hour of import, because we had fixed before we had solar panels for 2.5 years, which finished at the end of March. We've now had to move on to the price. For this year's values, I've been using since April at least, I've been using the price cap, which is at that 24.5p, as my money to calculate my savings from. So we're not comparing like with like there. And also for most of last year, up until December, I was only getting paid, was it 5 or 6p? I think it was 5p for my export. So my export has gone up, or the amount I get paid for my export has gone up at least 3 times. And when I've moved on to the Flux, for those few hours in the evening where we export a couple of kilowatt hours, we're getting paid a bit extra for those as well. So we're not really comparing like with like, but it just shows that if you use the right strategy and you move on to the right tariff, you can save a lot and make a lot more in seg. So when I did my prediction for the year back in the beginning of January, which was also on my recap from last year, I thought that I'd probably save about £900 this year, or make a payback of £900 on my initial investment in my solar panels, which was £8,500. So if the year does turn out to be more symmetric, so let's just say we are assuming that the first half of the year has just been cloudy and somehow the weather's going to improve through July and August, September and October, and therefore even things out, I am on course to make that £900, which means my prediction is correct. So, having solar panels, even on a year which is considered by many to be worse than last year, is still well worth it. We've now got control of our energy bills, which has been one of the main advantage. Obviously, we're adding to the decarbonisation of the environment by generating our own electricity and exporting excess to the grid. So again, decarbonising the grid there. You may say that I could get a better payback on my investment if I put it into a long-term bond or something like that, or risk it on the stock market. Yes, but the numbers are probably not that dissimilar. And the other advantages far outweigh that, and also the stock market is inherently a more risky place, which fundamentally I'm not that interested in risk at this time, just to do with my situation of being mainly self-employed, and just the volatility just in the jobs market as well. Anyway, thank you for watching. Hope you found that video in some way reasonably useful. As I say, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and also please consider becoming a channel member if you want to financially support the channel. And I'll see you in another video very soon.